Will I let the fear that has been implemented in me through the media override the data? I'm gonna take us somewhere for a second. I remember going through the pandemic, Jose, and truly not knowing what was next. I remember never experiencing like that type of fear. Almost to the point where the fear paralyzed me. I didn't know whether I could shake hands or hug people that I really loved. I remember going through the airport and my daughter putting her hand on like the escalator, and I slapped her hand, like, get your hand off there. And I heard me, went in my pocket and got a wipe and wiped her hand. And she didn't even understand, like she understood it was COVID, but I never like hit my daughter. So for me to pop her hand, she was like, Dad, I was like, yo, don't put your hand right there. Like, keep your hand on mine. The fear of the information that had bombarded me put me in a prison. I didn't even understand, like I couldn't love on my people the same way. I couldn't make right decisions the same way. I couldn't accurately like navigate through life the way I had become accustomed to because of a seed of fear had been planted in me. A seed of fear had been planted in me. Now, I'm about to say something here, and it's not so much as geared toward anybody specifically, but I remember when they introduced the vaccine or the shot, right? And I remember them saying like, yo, you got to get this shot. And I remember like saying, bro, I don't trust these people enough to let them put a shot in me. Now, I'm not saying you right or wrong for getting the shot. I'm just saying, like, for me, I was like, do I trust these people enough for them to put a shot in me? And so I remember like backtracking, like how long, this was truly a thing for me. I remember backtracking how long it takes to construct, test, implement, and bring a vaccine to market. And one of the things I thought about was the AIDS virus. I was like, yo, this thing came out in around late 70s, early 80s, became potent, and then we didn't get like the right type of drug treatment for that till like 2017, 2018. Well, we're gonna say that for the everyday person, right? For the everyday person. And I was like, okay, this COVID thing is in our face. Do I trust that they are doing the right thing for us? And I said, okay, who is affected more than anyone else? And I said, poor in the middle class. Okay. And not judging anyone else, and I had to make a decision. Will I let my fear, watch this, Jose, will I let the fear that has been implemented in me through the media override the data? Right? Now, this is not me judging anybody, because everybody has to make the right decision for them and their family. But as for me and my house, do I let the fear of this thing override the data that has already been laid out? So I made an executive decision to turn my fear into freedom. The freedom to make the right decision for me and mine in the moment. And the only way that you truly know that you've made the right decision is by living with it and then seeing, hindsight, what was the residue of the decision made. All right, we going somewhere with this, Jose. We going somewhere with this. We going somewhere with this, right? You don't know if you made the right decision in the moment. You never know. Even if in the moment things appear to be well, you can only interpret decision as being a right decision when you look back at it and see what has followed the decision. Right? We'll call that the tidal waves of a decision. Right? But you can also, Jose, get caught up in the vortex of the fear. So in case you don't know what a vortex is, right? So if you ever saw a whirlpool, right? You ever seen a whirlpool? What happens is the forces that draw you into the whirlpool is the vortex, right? And the vortex can be so powerful. Like, okay, Jose, watch this. I remember, I'm going to go somewhere with this. Ooh, it's going to be so good. It's going to be so good. Like, I remember when I was in New Orleans, some of my people from New Orleans might remember this, right? So one of the things in New Orleans people do, like when you grow up around like lakes and you have like little canals. So a lot of the canals and the lakes and the streams all flow to the Mississippi River, right? They all flow there. So sometimes as a kid, you'll get a little adventurous. And so you and your homies jump in the lake, jump in the little river, jump in the, right? Because y'all want to swim. Like as a kid, you want to swim all the time. And my grandmother used to tell me, Leon, do not jump in that river. I'm like, why I can't jump in that river? Like, all my she like, if you jump in that river, I'm going to whoop you behind. Right? So one of the things that I feared most was a butt whipping, an unnecessary butt whipping from my grandmother. Like, because I had enough of them on my own. Right? I had enough of them that, like, I future planned that, like, school, church, you know, I was a little kleptomaniac when I was little. So those were I already had them in store for me. Right? My account was already full from them. So the unnecessary butt whippings, I ain't need them. So once she implemented that, and that wasn't a fear, that was that 100% you know what this feel like. And so I said, okay, I'm not gonna jump in that with them. I'm okay with not jumping. And so I made this decision in my mind where I said, well, that water dirty anyway. All right, that water dirty, it's brown water. I ain't gotta jump in that anyway. And then one day, we saw on the news where a kid got sucked in by the current and they didn't find him for a week later. And then it became an occurrence because I didn't know that was a real thing. So what happens is, we used to go look by the river and be like, yo, what sucked in the person? And then we realized that they had suck holes in it. Right? And the river created these currents that the current didn't get you, but the vortex got you in. And it was sprout up out of nowhere. You couldn't see him. And all you knew was that you saw something and then it was gone. So I remember one day, me and my partner, bro, we skipping the rocks. We seeing who can skip the rocks the most, right? And so he took his shirt off one day, and I don't know why it threw it. I don't know why he did it. But this was the first time I saw one of the whirlpools come up. And I saw the shirt go slow and then just immediately speed up. And I watched it go in. And I was like, yo, where is it? It never came back up. It never came back up. The vortex pulled it to it And then once the vortex of the current pulled it to it, the whirlpool then did its job. Watch this, Jose. Watch me here. The fear is what paralyzes you. But before the fear takes place, there's a vortex of decisions that happen that lead to the fear doing its job. So you get caught up by the vortex. You get caught up, watch this, the emotion of fear, the spirit of fear, the residue of fear, the anticipation of fear. So before the fear itself does its job, there are other leading indicators that gravitate you to it. So by the time the fear hits you, you're already done. Like I remember watching something on TV one day, and they said like a man fell out of a building, right? Like, a matter of fact, for 9/11, they said like people jumped out of a building. They said, but before they hit the ground, they was dead. And I'm like, I wonder why. Like, what happened? What happens is when you jump, you think you're doing the best thing for you because you don't want to. But there's things that lead up before you. I really jumped. I can't come back. They said something. They did a study on people that like commit suicide, that jump off bridges. They say the minute they jump, they regret it. Because one man lived. One man lived. And they said, yo, like, what happened? He said, man, listen, I'm so glad I survived. And they said, we are too. He said, no. The minute I jumped was the minute I realized I didn't want to die. There's a vortex of decisions that suck you in. And that's before the fear even gets to you. So tonight, what I want us to understand is I want us to turn the fear into freedom. Okay. How do we get there? How do we turn fear into freedom? But first, Jose, we got to understand that we have been shackled by fear. A lot of us have been, watch this, Jose, sculpted by fear. Finally exiting average reality. Right? So the fear has put us in these positions where we don't even understand what our optimal potential is. All right. So fear. Right? Like, when I think about fear, Jose, like I'm going to get a little biblical here. Moses brought them to the Red Sea. All the people understand is there's a fear in front of me and there's a fear behind me. Right? There's a fear in front of me and there's a fear behind me. Now they're being shaped by a decision. But the goal here is to have optimal faith. The goal here is to have optimal faith. The optimal faith says, I will not let the fear of what I see disrupt the faith in what I know is possible.